the system.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gaming the System, the podcast where three intersectional feminists examine gaming and games through a feminist lens. Today, I'm your host, Alex, and I'm joined by my friends Jem and Matt. Before we get started, if you want to support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gaming the system for some exclusive content. Or you can send us a one-off donation via PayPal to our email address. We are gamingthesystem@gmail.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of Gaming the System. Today we are going to be talking about how gaming can boost your CV, which I think is a really interesting topic when you think about it. What I want to do for this first episode is concentrate on what they call hard skills and how gaming can help boost those in particular. I've got about 5 different hard skills. I'm kind of going to list each of them, and then we'll talk about games that we think would be a real asset to have played to really boost that particular skill. And bear in mind, it is a more of a tongue-in-cheek look at this. We're not saying that what you should do to boost these skills is play these games, but I think they definitely, it's a good way of building up that skill, even subconsciously, while you're having a fun time as well. But yeah, definitely a tongue-in-cheek look. So, it's something that occurred to me because I recently had a job interview at my own place of work. And I thought, well, if I was to have a flight of fancy, let's say, I could list all the games that I've played in my life as a gamer and attribute each of them to all of the particular skills they've listed in their person's specification. And that's how I got the idea for this particular episode. So the first one I'm going to start off with is a hard skill, which is campaign management. So I'm going to open up the floor to you, Jem and Matt. What sort of games have you played that have boosted your campaign management skills? And you can take this as sort of literally or as openly as you want to. I'd be really interested to hear what you have to say.
A massive, useful thing about gaming is, if you think of games are like a project, any video game is a project that you have there's an 100% point where you've literally done absolutely everything there is to be done. And with any kind of like well-managed project, you need to have an understanding of what your 100% goal is, and then to plan backwards from that the steps that you need to take along the way, and understanding that there is a finite endpoint and settling that, because you don't have an alternative in an actual game because someone else has designed it. And what can go wrong with project management from the manager's perspective is they're not clear with exactly what they want. You have to be very, very specific so that everyone is on the same page, working towards a clearly defined goal. And because then that allows you to measure your progress soberly and deliberately, and that ability to plan out campaign, as it were, and going, right, we've got to do this bit, this bit, this bit, and this bit. You go and work on that, you go and work on that, and then we'll bring it together. And so you go and collect the feathers in Assassin's Creed, you do the main campaign, you do the side quest, you do the build. Oh, it was so cool, building Monteregione, building that up. You go and explore the other settlements, and then we come together, and then that has done. We've compartmentalized, and then bring it together, and all of a sudden we're 85% of the way through and then you go, right, I can't find the last 10 feathers. And it's impossible to find those last 10 feathers. I need to go and collect some more gold so I can finish off Monteriggione. I'm struggling with the last big battle. And that's from a teamwork point of view, because we could do an entire hour and a half on just solo benefits, and an entire half on team benefits. So yeah, so that's my view on like projects and like campaign management.
What about you, Jem? I think you're still muted.
So a study from the University of Rochester found that action and strategy gamers make decisions 25% faster than non-gamers without sacrificing any accuracy. So, that's obviously a key skill when it comes to campaign management, being able to make decisions, but with very little information very quickly that doesn't blow the whole thing up. And I think gaming, most computer games or most video games have some element of campaign management in it. When I was thinking about sort of which specific game would I reference for this, I think Stardew Valley is the one that came to mind, because you've obviously you're planning for a year, because obviously you can only grow. I say obviously, you might not have played Stardew Valley, because you can only grow certain plants at certain times of the year, and you need a certain amount of plants or a certain specific types of plants or whatever for various tasks. So you have to plan out your year, and then within each season, you have to plan out how you're going to attend certain events and how you're going to make the most of what the weather's doing. So you have to change your plans. So hardcore Stardew Valley players will know that a rainy day is a mining day, because on a day when it's raining, you don't have to water all your crops, so you can use that time to run down and mine. So there's lots of things that you're having to be aware of, and some of them are very clearly defined and long-term goals and long-term strategies, and others are reactionary and things that you're just having to do because suddenly something changed and now I'm having to do this thing, or I suddenly remembered so-and-so's birthday or whatever. So I think those kind of games really, really encourage an understanding, at the very least, of campaign management and how to sort of plan and how to progress. And I think Matt made a really important point about how one of the key points of good campaign management is being able to track progress and see what progress you've made, where things need more effort and other things can have less effort. And that's something that we often see in computer games, and when we're playing leveling and things like that all help towards that. So yeah, I think pretty much every game has an element of campaign management in it, but Stardew Valley was my top choice.
Excellent
as
stuff.
We know.
Yes, indeed.
The awareness of the clear definition of goals and elements is such a critical thing to decide on whenever you're planning anything, especially with teams, because in games the goal of the design is to make it feel like it's an infinite world that's really lived in, like that everything is really unique. But then there are very, very clear like core elements that are in it. So when you go into any game, you know that, say, Assassin's Creed 2, you can't paint every building in Monteriggione. It feels like you can when you're doing everything. You can't go and become a politician in the time. You can't do anything you can literally think of. which is what poor managers often end up doing. They go, oh, I've had this new idea. We could do this and this and this and this. And you go, well, you didn't say that at the start, so we can't do that. And to be able to, I like the phrase clearly defined. So you go, right, we've got these 10 pillars of things that we're going to work on.
Mhm.
And we can workshop around those, but to consider expanding onto other things, that's something that needs to be conducted extremely seriously with everyone here, because going from 10 things to 12 things out of nowhere is a terrible way to manage a project.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent points from you both. I think, certainly from a solo perspective, some of the games that spring to mind are like those ones with really clearly defined missions and objectives under those missions as well. So things like Sniper Elite games, you'll have your main mission, which would obviously overarching mission would be to defeat the Nazis. But your individual missions, you can go and gather information for the resistance, you can plant bombs on things like dams or research sites, etc. Lots and lots of different connotations in each of those missions. And then you've got games like Assassin's Creed, as you mentioned, Matt, where certainly in the earlier ones you could choose a path to the end goal, but it gave you optional choices as well. So you have to make decisions based on maybe your play style. So in cases of jobs, you could say, I've chosen the way to pursue this project because I know that this is my working style and this is how I work best and how I communicate with others, etc. So there's definitely, those games definitely come to mind for me. And then thinking about board games as well, you've got lots of legacy type board games which last a very long time, which again takes a lot of coordination and planning, especially if you're playing with other people. You're going to have to organise meetups to keep going with those regularly. Jem, I know you've played a lot of Pandemic Legacy as well, so that certainly slots into that category, I would say, too.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't mention that. It's so funny because, as I said, so many games use these skills or draw on these skills, and it's funny that, you don't even necessarily realise that that's what you're doing until somebody confronts you with it.
Another thing is that it's the understanding that whatever this campaign is, it is a step-by-step journey. You can't rush your way to 100%. Well, you can try, but there's no guarantees of if you'll be able to get there. You can go, I'll cheese it. I'll cheese through Elden Ring so I can beat all the bosses as I go along. But then that depends on what your definition of success and completion is, because there are bosses you can skip almost all of the bosses if you want to and go directly to 2 or 3 bosses and then finish the game. You go, yes, I've completed this project. And then you go, how much of the map have you explored? How much of the lore have you understood? And in games that like that can feel infinite, but they are still just exquisitely engineered, like different elements of all different types. And to go, like, this is what success is. This is what our 100% is with this. And a game might take 4 hours, it might take 40 hours, it might take 250 hours. But this is a problem, like, again, with managers that leads to crunch, is if you don't fully comprehend the amount of work that is going to need to take place to reach the goal that you desire, then you're going to spend too little time doing it, because everything would be better if it arrived finished earlier. That, in theory, that always sounds good, but it's to start going with the go, right, we need to do this thing in 6 months. And then you have to go, okay, we've got 6 months. We need to shrink our project down. I saw an article recently about, I can't remember what game it was, Dragon Age 2. Because Dragon Age 2 was, they had far, far less time to work on it than they thought they did. And so they had to cut half of the quests out of it. Because they went, right, if we had our goal of so many quests, but because we had the amount of time to do that, but now we've got half the time, so we cut half the quests, and that's trading off between, right, how much time have we got, and then how much can we do in that time. And we talked about Mind's Eye recently. And the kind of manager that the guy in charge of that was just going, well, we're just going to do it by feel, just really like work with it and just see like where we go, okay? And that's the absolute worst possible way to manage any kind of project.
It's so vague. Yeah. Okay, so another hard skill that I wanted to talk about. This one will be a fun one, I reckon. Storage systems and management. I think one of the earliest games where I was confronted with the problem of storage management and systems was probably Tomb Raider, to be honest. Although, to be fair, Lara's backpack is essentially magical and endless. You can store as much as you find in there. So there isn't a limit per se on the backpack. But if you have limited resources, you still have to manage them effectively, which is interesting. Say if Lara's got a flashing health bar, which means that she's got low health, and you've only got one small medipack, but you've got 3/4 of a level left to go. When do you pull the trigger on that medipack? You've got to work that out. And then you've got other games where this becomes more sort of apparent in terms of managing storage. Things where you have a limit on how much you can carry. And if you carry too much, you become encumbered. And you can't move as quickly. And it affects the way you move in combat, for example, as well. So you've got your games like your Soulsborne games, your Skyrims, etc., where you can also do things like trade, buy and sell. That, I think, again, is something to do with how you manage your inventory. How do you organise your inventory? Are you organised, or is it all a big mess all dumped in the middle, and then you can't effectively trade things properly? How have you guys found that in terms of managing your storage while you're gaming?
I love spreadsheets, and that's basically what any kind of storage system is. It is a spreadsheet of all the stuff you've got. And the best kind of storage systems are ones where you know exactly what everything is, you know exactly where it is, and you know exactly how to find it at all times. And there's just nothing like as sumptuous as a flawlessly organized storage system, and the feeling of being in command of everything. I've been having a tremendous time with playing Nioh 3 recently, and they're going through all the equipment and all the weapons. There are like 20 different types of weapons. You've got like 10 samurai weapons and then 10 ninja weapons, and then you've got a set of ninja armor and a set of samurai armor, and then you've got an omnio soul cores for the enemies that you defeat. And you spend the entire time, you pick up like 5 different things from every enemy you kill. And so it can become a bit overwhelming, but I really enjoy going through all the copies of items that I've got, and I go, right, okay, they're sorted by type and then sorted by level, so I delete the least powerful one of all of them. So I end up with just one copy of each thing that's the most powerful one. And going through, because I pick up so much stuff as I go along, reaching a point where I go, right, I'm struggling with the next part, the next boss. And I go, right, okay, I'll go back to my inventory and I'll sort through and I'll find the items that suit me best at the moment. And then there's all the different modifiers in the items. There's the attack damage, there's the elemental force, there's the how much chi does it use less of, and how much more experience points do you get from wearing it, and what are the benefits of each of the thing, and taking it just the sorting of something I love, and then there's the going through it and picking the right thing that you want to use. So you go, right, what do I want to do at the moment? How do I find the tools that I've got, bring them to the front, and then use them for the goal at hand? So with the resources, so it's basically a Soulsborne game. So the souls, you can different garments that allow you to increase the percentage of souls that you earn, but those garments they're not always going to be the most the most defensive ones. So they're not good for maximizing your defensive capabilities. And Nioh has equipment slots where you can set up all your gear and all your weapons and all your settings and all your accessories and your quick action things, and you can save those into the equipment set system. And then so I've got my soul farming one, and then I've got my most powerful one, and then I've got the one that looks the coolest. And just taking appraisal of all of your tools, laying them out nicely before you, and going, right, we've got to do this thing. So I'm going to take this, and this, put those together, and then attack the thing with the and this comes into campaign management as well. So if you've got, say, sniper assassin or hitman, you've got a mission, the end goal is kill these people, but you go, right, I need to, I know what this level is. It's perfect for sniper rifles. Whereas if you're inside a bank, you're not going to use a sniper rifle. And just taking resources, picking out the right ones, and then using them effectively. So satisfying.
I think there's a fine line between entertaining and game enhancing inventory management and hell. I think it's literally it can be, as you describe, it can be part of the game where it's fun. And I was thinking about Unpacking is a game all about inventory management. You've got you start with your boxes, and then it's all about where are you going to put all your things in your room. But then in Enshrouded that I'm playing at the moment, there are so many items because it has a absolutely fantastic crafting system, and so you can make so many things. But that means you have so many things, and they all live in chests, and they're not easily categorizable. So I think that's the other thing. It's yes, it's nice when you can clearly put things into neat little boxes, and I need this for this, and I need that for that. But in Enshrouded, you might need the same thing for 3 different things, and so it's not clear, and that stresses me. And I think also it is a time issue. So some games like Animal Crossing, there's quite a lot of inventory management in that, and resource management, and it can be quite fun because you're moving stuff around, and it's part of the sort of tidying up element of games. But that can also takes up a lot of time, and if you've only got limited time to play, then you might choose not to do very much inventory management. So I am terrible in Enshrouded because Daniel and I will be out and we'll have been going somewhere new and we picked up all this stuff. And I come back and I'm just like, dump it all in the first chest though. Bye. And run off. And then he comes in and he's like, what's the coal in here? And why are there sticks in this chest? And he's sort of like sorting it all back out again.
That would upset me so much.
And rightly so. I think it's reasonable to be upset by that. But I just can't be bothered because I'm like, I haven't got time for any of this. I'll deal with it later. To be fair, it's quite how we live in the real world as well. But no, I think it can be really fun, and I think there is definitely an element of that in games like the merge games, which are all about sort of tidying up, aren't they, and pulling everything together. So yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. I'm not sure if I've learned any real world skills from doing it, except just an awareness of how messy and erratic
which is good skill still. Self-awareness. There we go. That's one for you.
This is true.
Yeah. That's a great one.
How about time management? Since you brought up time management. No, I was the first thing that came to mind when I thought about this one is racing games, which is a slightly different way of looking at it. But yeah, that's the most pure form of time management for me is, can you do this thing before the time? And that can take the form of a race. It could be like a timed door or a lever or something like that, or a puzzle. Love a good puzzle. But yeah, those are the main things for time management. For that one, I'm going to put Spyro or the Spyro trilogy family into that one because they have loads and loads of racing levels when you go and speak to Sparks, who's your little dragonfly. And they are brutally hard, but the sense of achievement on completing them is fantastic. And there's definitely a skill to it. You know, you get to know the set path which you must take, the shortcuts through the routes, all that sort of thing, and how to be efficient at completing each of the races. So that would be my pick for time management. That is my game. Have you thought about what yours would be?
I think that's really interesting that you went for racing games and those kind of games. But I think that's probably right. I think time management for me would, well, along those lines, I would say Enshrouded again, because in Enshrouded, when you go into certain areas, you get a timer. And you die if you reach 0 on that timer and you're still in the area. So if you go into an area that is shrouded, then you get this enshrouded debuff, basically, which counts down. You can do various things to increase that, and you can find things around the world that will sort of top it up while you're in the shroud. But if you're still in the shroud when that timer reaches 0, you die. That's it. And certainly that's added quite a nice frisson to the gaming experience, especially at the moment because we're playing in a very deep shroud. And so last night, Daniel and me were running around going like, I'm going to the east, I'm going to the west, we're going to try and find a way up this cliff. And it was literally like a countdown before one of us died. We did manage to get out, but we were at opposite ends of point. So, but that definitely adds a sort of, you have to think about it. Can I do this? And I got a debuff, which meant that my time was half of what it was, and that influenced what we chose to do in the game. So it had quite a big impact. But I suppose the other thing about time management is about how much time can you game? What choices of games what games do you choose to play with the time that you've got, and how much time do you set aside for gaming in general or gaming with specific games? So for me, that's probably the biggest impact that that I can link the sort of time management in gaming is all around my own real world time management and how much time in my day I choose to devote to gaming. And I think that's interesting because it brings up a whole set of issues around self-care, around what we do to decompress, what we do to give ourselves time out from all of the busy things that we're doing in our lives. And also I think been having conversations with some friends recently about the concept of productivity and self-care. And somebody was saying that I'm not being productive. I need to find a way to be productive. And I said, well, I think self-care is kind of the art of not being productive. I think there is definitely an element that is about it. I'm doing this because I enjoy it, not because I am achieving something, not because something is necessarily happening. It doesn't mean that something can't be achieved at the same time, but that isn't the aim. The goal is not to achieve, it is simply to do, to enjoy. And I think for me, that's one of the key things when I'm choosing how to spend my time and my time management around games. So yeah, it's a little bit a step back from the games and more about playing me.
I think that's an excellent point as well. That's another thing that came to mind. Definitely is just about, especially as we get older, I think as well, is how much time we've got to game and how we choose our games to reflect that as well. What about you, Matt?
There's also the productivity is a narrative inflicted on us by both capitalism and patriarchy, because for women it's
absolutely
going, shouldn't you, if you don't have kids, shouldn't you have kids by now? Shouldn't you be doing more things for your family? Shouldn't you be doing more things for the community? Shouldn't you be caring for other people? Capitalism is going, well, you're not doing it. If it doesn't make money, then it doesn't matter, does it? And you're not being a productive member of society because you're not making enough money. You need to be working harder. And rather than going, right, you should be working, resting and playing. And for adults who don't game, there's very, very little play in the lives of adults, whereas with gaming, because if you game as part of your life, you're guaranteed playing time. When I'm thinking of time management, I'm thinking more of appraising the amount of time a certain activity in a game will take, because not all activities in a single game are going to take the same amount of time or energy or attention. So you can go, right, I'm just gonna go and collect the different. If you go, right, I get back to Assassin's Creed 2, I'm just going to go and collect all the feathers. That's different to collecting all it's probably the worst form of collectibles, because there's 100 of them and there's no map of where they are and where you've picked them up and how many and where you've got left to pick them up. So you know that's going to take a very, 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 very long time, and it's going to be arduous. So you might go, I'm just going to not do it. With Nioh, a lot of it is I can just breeze through because I've leveled up so much. Some bits I go, right, I need to get a few more souls, so I'll just put on my soul farming gear and go and do that quickly. But then a couple of times I'll reach a boss where I am massively unprepared for it, and I'll try brute forcing it a few times, and then I go, right, I'm not going to be able to quickly do this. This is going to take more time than just banging your head against one thing over and over again. I need to go, right, okay, in order to do that, I'm going to need to spend a couple more hours going and farming more souls and then coming back and trying again. and to be able to. Sometimes you can complete an activity. You don't need to be 100% switched on to do it, and gaming's really good for practicing that, because you go, right, this bit's going to be simple. I just need to go to a place, find a thing. I know that these kinds of enemies aren't going to be very difficult. But then you hit something like one of these really good bosses, and you go, right, the only way I'm going to do this, I can brute force it until I do it, or I can learn. The goal will be, I'm not going to try and win these boss fights for a while. I'm just going to learn the movesets. And Expedition 33 has completely changed the way I approach fighting in really difficult games, because it's the only way to play that game, because it's turn-based. You can't run around and dodge and try and give yourself space. It's a very, right, it's their turn. You need to... I remember this one has 3 attacks, and it goes 1, 2, 3. And to be able to go, right, I've got this activity to do in this period of time, and I need to focus a specific skill set for that period of time, and then perform that. Because to try and be like with jobs in general, the pressure is to be going at 100%, 110% the entire time you're there, and then be thinking about work outside of work. And what it should be, rather than it being, right, you're doing 40 hours in the office, you're going to be doing something every second of that. You go, right, we know exactly what we've got to do. We've got these enemies to beat, and we'll work based on what we need to do to beat that enemy. And then once we've beaten those enemies, we're done working, and we can rest and do something else, rather than going, right, you need to just work and work and work and work and work. And yeah, just being able to, just be in command of what actions you're taking and how you're taking them.
Yeah, definitely a considered approach for sure. It's really interesting to hear about how you've had to change your approach with the types of games like Expedition 33. I'd love to talk about that more. I do mean to play it eventually, because it's doing so well.
You must.
Sure, this must mean it's good. I mean, I know from you guys it's good. So yeah, it's on the list to play, definitely. We've got a bit of time left in this episode, and I've got a couple more skills that I wanted to chat about. One of them is a little bit of a strange one, but I was thinking of this one in terms of control schemes. So, machine operation. Are there any games where you've really struggled to pick up the controls, or you've had to adapt to a different way of controlling a character in a game, or progressing through a game that you weren't expecting necessarily? I do feel like as gamers we are pretty good at picking up new controls, and new ways of playing. It can take a little bit of time if we've been zoned into one particular game, one way of playing. Usually you get that muscle memory and you're thinking, well, where isn't RT and she in this one? Whatever. And it takes a bit of adjustment. But I think machine operation, as a sort of broad coverall for that sort of thing, is definitely a skill that gamers are very good at. What would you say?
Yeah, I was thinking recently that my mum's got 4 games on the go at the moment. She's got Alan Wake, which is playing solo. She's got Baldur's Gate 3, which is playing with me. She's got Reanimal, which she's playing with Megan. And then she's got Ghost of Tsushima that she's playing with
That's
Megan.
an impressive list, and all different.
I know.
Yeah.
Completely couldn't be more different kinds of games. And so with each one, the control scheme, that is such a really just powerful way of like focusing on something, of mindfully approaching the present thing that you're doing. Because I find if I go from playing one like fighting game to a slightly different fighting game, if I try and I'm just doing the thing that I'm doing, I'll press the wrong buttons constantly. So you need to properly sit and go, okay, this button is dodge for this. This button is block for this. And just the mental, like the actual like brain chemistry, neural pathways that you're practicing constantly of going, okay, dodge is circle on this one, is X on this one. I'm playing this game, so it's X, X, X. Now I'm playing this one, which is circle, circle, circle. So that being able to, like, it's like playing two different instruments, but it's still your brain controlling your body and practicing the fine motor skills of controlling something like this, but also having your brain looking at a screen and going, okay, move that and this and that and this and that. So it's so good for like the skill of doing anything with your hands, but also for the brain health of constantly. It's the controller's always the same, but your brain is interacting with it differently, and that kind of, especially as you get older, any kind of practice of doing like that kind of thinking and learning, it gets more and more powerful. We could do an episode about why old people should game and how good it is for.
We totally should.
To,
yeah. I think for me, I've never really, I've used controllers all my life, but I've not consistently used them. So I've used them because I'm basically a PC gamer. Controllers is something that I've used for the odd game here and there. So I've never really become friends with them, and I just always find it slightly, there isn't muscle memory there for me. So it's often a challenge for me to remember what buttons to press. And then, as you're talking about switching between games, again, is very confusing. Just even remembering where the actual bits are on the controller is really hard for me. Whereas give me a keyboard and I'll be absolutely fine. I can
I really struggle with a keyboard and mouse because I feel like I can't tell where my fingers are. I have to look down, and therefore I can't see the screen, so I find it a real challenge.
Yeah, and I think it's just because of what you're used to, what you've spent the majority of the time using. And I think that just goes to show, doesn't it, really, that these things are all about practice, and the more we practice them, the better we get at them. And I do think that there is a sort of optimal age perhaps to be getting into these things, and we've talked in the past about how sometimes age can be a bit of a barrier to getting into gaming because of the assumptions that you know certain things and you can do certain things, that there's not space given to learning those skills in many games. But I do also think that, as Matt said, it's so good for your brain elasticity, this like having to think about it. And we know that it's really good for us when we're thinking and physically acting as well. That's a really good thing for the way that our brains work and the way that we learn things and stuff. So I remember when my daughter was at primary school and we were sort of looking for suggestions on how to help her learn the times tables. And the head teacher at the school said, well, she really likes going on the trampoline, doesn't she? And she said to get her to do the times tables while she's on the trampoline, because the physical act of jumping at the same time as thinking helps you to embed that information, that knowledge in your body more. And so I think that's the same thing that's happening when you're gaming. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I am just surmising this from the various bits of information that I've got. But yeah, so I think for me, using a controller has always been a challenge, and it adds that additional layer of complexity to a game. So sometimes I find it frustrating because I feel like if I had a better grasp on how to grasp, if I had a better grasp of how to use a controller, then I would be able to enjoy the game more. But because I'm so, and I think that is actually a really important thing regarding gaming and machine operation, is that what I want when I game is I just want to be in the game. I just want to feel like I'm flowing into the game. The game is flowing into me. It's a sort of two-way process. If you're spending all of your time trying to work out what button to press or how to jump or the exact second, and I know we've talked about this with regards to Expedition 33, because they have this really crazy dodge tactic that can really make or break the game for you, and it's so hard to get the timing right. And I think, Matt, you used an add-on for that, didn't you? And I know that Daniel was saying that he had the music turned right down so that he could hear the sounds in the game, because apparently there are some audio cues, whereas I just flick constantly between easy and sort of like normal mode because I just cannot get that timing right, and it's not fun. It would be nice if they'd allowed you to specifically tweak that one aspect of the game. So I think that's the thing. It's like, I think game mechanics, we talked about that a lot, but in this sort of, at this sort of machine operation level, I think it's really important that it's not a barrier between you and enjoying the game. And I think that's something that is so important when we're looking at accessible gaming as well. And we've talked a lot about how important it is for games to have, to provide lots of options for people so that they can access the game in a way that works for them. And I think that, it's very key when we're talking about machine operation.
That's such a good.
I've said to my mum a lot about that gaming is like driving a car. You can't. You need to learn to drive before you can play all the games that you want to play. And playing, you might have spent your entire life riding on a moped, and then some games are like you need to be able to drive a car, you need to be able to drive a lorry, any kind of thing. And the one of the biggest failures of all game developers is not building their games in a way where there's an option for someone who has never played a game before to play an awesome game like Expedition 33, have that be their first game, because they've created a system in it that is that you can use this awesome game as a training system. Whereas what trips up a ton of most people getting into games the first time, especially the older they are, is in order to play all the good games are complex compared to the games that you can play when you've never used a controller before, you've never tried anything before. And that can be boring, especially if you're trying to do it on your own. If you've got people around you who are invested in you gaming, even then my mum's been gaming for 2 years now, and she's had to work very, very hard and be incredibly persistent to learn that skill. And that's another thing, because this episode is all about skills. Gaming teaches you skills as well as practicing them.
Certainly, yes. Thank you, Matt. That was really, really good. One last skill to end the episode. This one, I think, interestingly, I was coming at it from a more sort of cozy game perspective. And that's the skill of design and planning. I was thinking in terms of how you build a house in The Sims, for example. How are you going to design your house? How are you going to decorate it? Where are you going to put the bathrooms in relation to the bedrooms or the kitchen? Is it going to be next to the lounge or somewhere else entirely? Your games like where you've got a lot of cosmetics. That doesn't necessarily do anything in terms of gameplay. Some outfits do, of course. Maybe that's part of design and planning, but it's more, I think for me, design is definitely more of a sort of creative outlet. How do you find your creative outlet in games as well?
Oh, that's interesting. I think it is definitely an element of design in, like you say, in games like The Sims and Animal Crossing, and not so much I suppose Stardew Valley, and and then in the builder games or the survival games like Enshrouded and Valheim, we do spend quite a lot of time just, I don't know, enjoying the building experience and like making out like nice little areas for your characters to hang out in, or just making a nice house to come back to and stuff like that. So I think that's one of the places where the sort of creative aspect comes out for me. And I think I quite enjoy that side of things. I quite enjoy that element. I think also there's something about being able to sort out your inventory. We talked about inventory management earlier, but being able to sort out your inventory into neat categorized boxes or sections and groups. And that's one of the things in Enshrouded, that they have a thing where you can sort your inventory. You just press T and it sorts your bag for you. And it never sorts it in the way that I would have sorted it. And it really annoys me, because then I think, well, I can go through and I can resort everything, but then next time I hit T, it's going to sort it all in its own weird order. And I don't know what kind of devilish creature came up with the order that they've decided it should sort it into. But I find that frustrating. And then you've got games like Minecraft and things where people have built such amazing structures and worlds, and they've completely created real world places inside the game and things like that. So I think there's like quite a lot of elements for tapping into your creativity and your design within games.
I don't play many buildery games. I like to spend my creativity around what I like, the kinds of the visual aspects of things. So I often say, like with God of War Ragnarok, in the Valhalla mode, you can have any visual, any skin type around your weapons and equipment. And sort of you have to, with games like with Nioh, you create the way you want to play the game. My favorite weapons are the ninja sword and tonfa and a big axe. And I love approaching the things from that angle. But then you could approach it from a completely different angle. And I think it's another way to creatively express yourself, the way you approach.
Definitely. Yeah, I completely agree. I really like the ability now in games to have lots of different choices for outfits or the way that weapons look and things. But you can it's called transmog or something, where you have the has boosts and stats from one type of weapon, but you can make it look like another type of weapon, or another type of outfit, which I really like as well. So then you can get exactly how you want to look, but you have all of the different boosts and buffs from other outfits instead, which I really enjoy. But yes, so I want to thank you both for what has been a really interesting deep dive into the hard skills of gaming to boost your CV. But hard skills are not the only skills that you need for a job. So if you want to find out more about those soft skills, then you can tune in for our next episode. And we have episodes every Thursday. So thank you for watching and listening. And feedback, what skills have you gained from gaming? Or what skills do you think you've really improved through your gaming life? Let us know it in the comments. And thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.